I was working the customer service desk for a train line in Italy. An American family came up furious. The father slammed his tickets down and said, "We were told this was the fast train to Florence." I checked his tickets. "Sir, this is the Sane Freccia Rossa, the fastest train we have. It will be there in under 2 hours. He pointed out the window and yelled, "Then why aren't we going 200 text, Empire right now? We're in a station." In America, fast means fast from the second you get on. And I had to explain the basic concept of acceleration. My American roommate in London was a sweet girl, but bafflingly dense. One evening, she was watching the news about a wildfire in California. She turned to me with a panicked look and asked, "Oh my God, is that near us?" I had to gently pull up a world map on my laptop and show her the 5,000 cell text, my gap, and the entire Atlantic Ocean separating London from California. She stared at it for a full minute before saying, "Wow, I guess I won't need to close the windows then." A dialogue I had with an American tourist at my bookstore in Edinburgh. Him, "Do you have any books about the British American Civil War?" Me, "I'm afraid not, Vace. Sir, we specialize in Scottish history." Him, "But you were part of it, right? You guys were on the side of the British who were with the South." Me, "Sir, the American Civil War was in the 1860 pause text, so. Scotland and England unified in 1707, and the British government was officially neutral." He looked at me completely lost and said, "So, you don't have the book?" My company sent an executive from the Texas office to our branch in Zurich for a month. On his first day, he called a meeting to complain about the public transit. "Why does everyone take the walk tram? It's so socialist. We need to encourage a culture of independence here." He then proposed a company-wide incentive program where employees would get bonuses for driving their own cars to work. He couldn't grasp that the city was designed for public transport, and most of us didn't even own cars. I once had an American guest at my B+B in the Irish countryside ask me if we could turn off the wind. He was trying to fly a drone and was annoyed that the gusts were making it difficult. He said, "You must have some kind of national weather control for the tourist areas, right? Or at least a big fan you can point the other way." He was completely serious and seemed to think I was hiding the wind remote from him. While working as a barista in Amsterdam, an American tried to pay for his $4 text, $1 coffee, with a 100 bill. I told him, "We only accepted euros." He leaned in conspiratorially and whispered, "Look, I know you have to say that, but we both know the $100 is the real money. Just take it and give me the change in dollars." He seemed to genuinely believe that all foreign currency was just a facade for tourists and that everyone secretly used by USD behind the scenes. An American exchange student in my biology class in Western Australia raised her hand and asked the professor with no irony if kangaroos were born with backpacks. She thought the, say, pouch was a separate accessory that the mother kangaroo acquired after birth, like a diaper bag to carry her baby in. The professor was so stunned he couldn't speak for a moment, while the rest of the class tried desperately to stifle their laughter. I was on a guided tour of the ancient ruins of Pompeii. An American woman kept asking the guide questions like, "Where was the Walmart? And did they have a cheesecake factory?" The guide patiently explained that this was a city from nearly $2,000 years ago. The woman finally threw her hands up in frustration and said, "I just don't get it. What did people do all day without shopping malls? It must have been so boring before." America invented convenience. My cousin married an American and moved to Ohio. She told me about her first neighborhood potluck. She brought a beautiful, traditional Irish shepherd's pie. A neighbor looked at it with disgust and asked, "What is that? Is that dog food?" The neighbor then explained that real food comes in a box or a can. and that anything made from scratch with fresh vegetables was suspicious and probably not safe to eat at a pub in South Manchester. I overheard an American telling his friends that he was basically a local because his great-great-great-grandmother was from Ireland. When someone pointed out that Manchester is in Sonnyton, England, and has a very distinct culture, he waved his hand dismissively and said, "Ireland, England, Scotland, it's all the same place. Right, it's the UK, like how Texas and California are both in the USA. You guys just have better accents." I worked for a software company that was acquired by a US firm. The new CEO flew to our office in Stockholm for a visit. During his big introductory speech, he announced that he was generously giving us all a day off to celebrate the text of July. He called it a gift of freedom. There was a dead awkward silence until our Swedish manager had to go on stage and explain that we didn't know what that was and would prefer to have our own national holidays off instead. A tourist came into my pharmacy in Paris, looking for melatonin. I showed him where it was. He looked at the box, which was in French, and got angry. "Why is this in Welsh? Mexican?" he demanded. I blinked. "Sir, this is by French." He scoffed. By French, Mexican, Spanish. It's all the same garbage language. How are people supposed to read this? You should have an English option by law. It's the international language of medicine. My friend is a chef in a high-end restaurant in Tokyo. An American couple ordered the expensive omichi tasting menu. Halfway through, the man called my friend over to the table. He was holding a piece of exquisite fatty tuna nigiri. He asked my friend, "Can you take this back to the kitchen and cook it? I don't eat, say, raw fish." "It's dangerous, Just throw it on the grill until it's well done." My friend said he felt a piece of his soul die that day. I had an American colleague who was transferred to our office in India. After a week, he sent a company-wide email complaining that his apartment didn't have a dishwasher or a clothes dryer. He wrote, "It is incredibly inefficient for a country of 1 billion people to be wasting so much time on manual labor. They need to adopt the American model of appliance-based living. If they ever want to be a serious economic power." He was fired a month later. While visiting the Vatican, an American next to me asked his wife, "So, is the Pope like the King of Italy?" His wife replied, "No, honey, he's Catholic." "I think that's a different country." They then spent 5 minutes arguing about whether Catholicism was a country with its own airport. An American tourist at the Loch Ness Visitor Centre in Scotland began yelling at the staff because he couldn't see the monster. I paid for a ticket. "This is false advertising," he shouted. The staff member tried to explain that Nessie is a legend, a myth. The man was not having it. "I didn't fly 4,000 miles to see a lake. I came to see a monster. In America, if we promise a monster, we deliver a monster. I want a refund." I was working on a group project with an American student at a university in the Netherlands. We were discussing renewable energy. She insisted that solar panels wouldn't work in Europe because the sun was way weaker here. Her reasoning: in America, the sun is really strong. That's why we get tans. Here, everyone is so pale. Your sun is clearly broken. You'd need, like, American-grade sun for these things to work properly. A guy I dated briefly from California was visiting my family in Toronto during the winter. He saw the city putting hot salt on the roads and freaked out. He was convinced it was a plot to make our cars rust faster, so we'd have to buy new ones. In California, we don't have snow, so we don't have this problem. It's a government-created scam. He couldn't comprehend that preventing multi-car pileups on icy highways was the actual priority. Overheard on a bus in Queenstown, New Zealand. An American teenager asked his dad, "Why do they talk like that here? It's like a weird Australian accent." His dad replied, "Son, this is what happens when you're a British colony for too long. They lose their own identity. It's sad, really. Thank God we had the Revolutionary War to make sure we sound like normal people. I had an American manager who believed that time zones were just a suggestion. He would schedule mandatory conference calls for our team in Swanum, Mumbai, at 4 text a.m. What their time, which was $5.30 text m, for him in New York. When the Indian team lead complained, our manager said, "Champions adjust. If you want to play in the big leagues, you need to be willing to work on a tight New York schedule. The world economy doesn't sleep and it runs on Eastern Standard Time." A tourist in a chartered Greek tivera sent back his salad because it had feta cheese on it. He told the waiter, "I asked for a Greek salad, not a cheese salad. I am lactose intolerant." The waiter explained that feta is the defining ingredient of a Greek salad. The tourist replied, "Well, in the Olive Garden in America, they let you have it without the cheese. You should learn from them. The customer is always right." My sister, a doctor in Germany, had an American patient who refused to believe she had a common cold. He demanded a full-body MRI, multiple blood tests, and an antibiotic prescription. When my sister explained that antibiotics don't work on viruses, he said, "That's just what a socialized medicine that wants you to think so they can save money. In America, we cure everything with pills. I have rights as a patient to get the drugs I want." An American I met in a hostel in Tachibana, Peru, was complaining about the local currency. "It's so annoying having to do math all the time," she said. "Why doesn't the whole world just use dollars? It would make everything so much easier for travelers. It's a white selfish system, making us learn all these different fake monies. It's just not fair." I was giving a historical walking tour of Prague. An American stopped me in front of the place 600 plus text year-old astronomical clock. He squinted at it and said, "This is cool and all, but why doesn't it have a digital display? It seems really impractical. My iPhone has a better clock than this. You guys should really upgrade it to the 21st century. It would be way more popular with tourists if it was more user-friendly." An American family moved in next door to my parents in a quiet, fast-managed English village. The first weekend, they set up a giant inflatable movie screen in their backyard and started blasting a Hollywood action movie at $11 text p.m. When my dad went over to politely ask them to turn it down, the man said, "Dude, relax. This is how we do weekends in the States. It's called having fun. You should try it instead of being so uptight." A student in my international law class who was from Florida seriously argued that any American citizen who commits a crime in another country should be immune from local laws. His logic was that the U.S. Constitution follows you wherever you go, and therefore, being tried in a foreign court was a violation of his constitutional rights. He couldn't understand the concept of national sovereignty. I was working at a ski resort in the French Alps. An American guest came to the rental shop to complain that the snow was too cold and wet. He asked if we had any dry snow, like they have in Colorado. I tried to explain the science of snow and temperature, but he just shook his head and said, "Look, I paid a lot of money for this trip. The least you could do is provide some quality American-style snow." An American tourist in Japan tried to haggle for the price of a bento box in a $7 text or 11 hata. The cashier was, of course, completely bewildered. The tourist kept saying, "Come on, what's your best price? Everything's negotiable." He then turned to his friend and said loudly, "You have to be aggressive in these third-world countries, or they'll rip you off." This was in a pristine, brightly lit convenience store in central Tokyo. My company hired an American marketing guru to help with our branding in Sue. Sumin. His first big idea was to translate our slogan directly into Spanish, using an online tool. The result was a nonsensical and slightly offensive phrase. When our entire Spanish team told him it was a disaster, he said, "No, you don't get it. It's disruptive. It's edgy. The West American market would love this. Your culture is just too conservative to understand brilliant marketing." I was on a flight from New York to London. The American man next to me was watching the flight path on the screen. He saw the high, curved line. The plane was taking over the Atlantic and called the flight attendant over. He told her in a very concerned voice, "Mom, I think your pilot is drunk. He's not flying in a perisson straight line. He should be going directly from New York to London." She then had to spend 5 minutes explaining that the Earth is round. A tourist at the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam asked the guide if Anne Frank had a TikTok account. The guide, taken aback, said, "Sir, this was during World War II in the 1940 bar text The tourist replied, "Oh, right. So did she have a blog then?" How did her story go viral without much social media? The guide just looked defeated and moved on to the next room. I had an American friend who was convinced that all animals in Australia were actively trying to kill people. She was invited to a barbecue at a friend's house in a Sydney suburb and refused to go. Her reason: "It's in the suburbs. That's basically the wilderness. I'm not going to get eaten by a tired dingo just for a sausage. You guys are crazy for living in such a dangerous country." An American in my cooking class in Bologna was horrified when the instructor taught us how to make pasta from scratch using flour, eggs, and water. She loudly declared, "This is so unsanitary. You're just touching the food with your bare hands." In America, our pasta is made in clean factories by machines, so you know it's safe from germs. I can't believe people here eat this bucko peasant food. While working at a hotel in South Iceland, a guest from Texas called the front desk at $2,000 text SMS out in the middle of summer. He was furious. "I demand a refund. Your country is broken." I asked what the problem was. He screamed, "The sun is still on. I can't sleep. It's the middle of the night. Why didn't anyone tell me you don't turn off the sun? Here, it's completely unprofessional." I was at a cafe in Vienna with an American acquaintance. The waiter brought our coffees, placing them on small saucers with a tiny spoon and a single wrapped chocolate. My acquaintance looked at the chocolate, then at the waiter, and said, "Excuse me, I think you forgot the rest." The waiter was confused. The American elaborated, "The free samples. In America, when they give you one, they give you a whole bowl to take from. This is just cheap." I was managing a historic hotel in the Chaichi, Scottish Highlands, when an American couple checked in. The husband came down to the front desk later looking very serious. He said, "I have a major security concern. The key you gave me is a real, old-fashioned metal key." Oh. I confirmed it was. He continued, "Oh, that's not safe. In America, all hotels use key cards. Anyone could copy this key. I need you to Citra key the entire hotel with a modern electronic system, immediately. My wife doesn't feel safe." I had to explain that our 300-plus year-old oak doors were protected heritage and couldn't be fitted with electronic locks. He accused me of prioritizing old wood over his personal safety.